Tonight in 9 News, about face, mask mandate set to return as the acting Premier calls for the booster gap to be shortened. Testing wait times blow out again, with travellers forced to pay extra to ensure they can fly. A grieving family comes face to face with the man who killed a father of 6 over a gum tree dispute. A mother reveals the heartbreaking moment she found out her 2 children perished on a joy flight. Stranded bushwalkers plucked to safety from Werribee Gorge, and the Australian Test team arrives in Melbourne aiming to clinch the Ashes on Boxing Day.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Alicia Loxley.
Good evening. Mask mandates are likely to return before Christmas, with the acting Premier refusing to rule out tougher COVID restrictions in the face of Omicron. Virus experts say face coverings indoors is a proportionate response to the new variant. Stephanie Anderson has more.
Melburnians have had a month of relaxed mask rules, now 4 days out from Christmas, and about face is on the cards.
We have seen through the federal chief medical officer calling on greater use of mask wearing indoors.
And that call to return to covering up is fast becoming a chorus. Virus experts adamant now is the time for common sense to kick in indoors.
We want to be just buying time, keeping things dampened down, particularly public transport, busy places, supermarkets, cafes and restaurants when you're not eating and drinking, that sort of thing.
We're in a position now to stop that very significant spread while we learn more about Omicron. Doesn't mean these interventions are here for months and months and months. I don't think we can leave this just to personal choice at this stage.
With another 1,245 infections confirmed, none of which were the Omicron strain, the acting Premier says he's listening to the health advice, but
I'm not going to foreshadow what further changes.
What he would say was this.
Mask wearing is a prudent, common sense measure. It can be inconvenient, but it's a small inconvenience.
The only reason the government is considering this is because our health system isn't up to scratch.
Today, 392 COVID patients are being treated in hospital, 73 require intensive care, and a call on what rules the rest of the community should be following this Christmas isn't likely to be made until the acting Premier puts his case to National Cabinet tomorrow.
No restrictions on getting together with loved ones, with family and friends to celebrate Christmas, to celebrate New Year, to enjoy the summer. None of those things are changing.
Stephanie Anderson is at the MCG tonight. Steph, are we anticipating any changes to the Boxing Day test?
Look, not at this stage, Alicia. Nothing is confirmed. But today, James Merlino was pretty adamant that the test will be going ahead here at the MCG from Sunday without a cap on crowd numbers. Now, whether or not those fans will need to be wearing masks or following additional protocols than were previously planned remains to be seen. It is sure to be another item on a packed agenda for the acting Premier and National Cabinet tomorrow. Alicia?
Certainly is. All right, Steph, thank you. New modelling prepared for tomorrow's crucial National Cabinet has a bleak warning for the new year. Let's go live now to our federal politics reporter, Jonathan Kersley. Jono, what does it show?
200,000 cases a day could be reported in Australia, Alicia, in late January, early February, without medium-level restrictions, including density limits and retail restrictions being in place. The data has been pulled together for National Cabinet by the Doherty Institute. That is the same group that set the models and markers for reopening the country. Under one of their scenarios of rapid spread and without tougher restrictions in place, 4,000 people could be hospitalised in Australia each day. It is ominous ahead of a National Cabinet that will decide what Christmas looks like in Australia for 2021. And the modelling suggests a hard lockdown could suppress an outbreak in a month. But today, Prime Minister Scott Morrison insisted Australia will not be going back to the land of lockdowns. In the summer heat, the Prime Minister is on the campaign beat, urging Australians to protect against the sun.
Slip, slop, slap, seek and slide.
And pleading with them to shield against the virus.
Booster shots are so important.
And while anxiety over the Omicron variant builds, some states are pushing for the timeline between second and third doses to be cut from 5 months.
I want it as short as possible.
We are concerned about the increasing number of infections.
We don't have the capacity through state-run vaccination centres GPs and pharmacists to actually deliver more boosters than are being done at the moment.
The vaccine advisory body also considering whether fully vaccinated should mean 3 doses instead of 2.
Only 6% of Australians have received a booster shot.
Vaccination is not everything, and we also need some public health measures.
And in advice revealed by 9 News, the country's top doctors are recommending masks should be mandated in all indoor settings, including retail, hospitality and entertainment facilities, stating it needs to be implemented prior to Omicron case escalation to have maximum benefit.
They will not destroy the economy, they will not destroy people's Christmases.
We have to move from a culture of mandates to a culture of responsibility.
But the Prime Minister concedes something needs to be done.
We're going to need to continue to calibrate how we manage this virus.
Chief Medical and Health Officers are also pushing for public health measures which could include reintroducing or increasing density limits as more is revealed about the variant causing so much concern.
You are less likely to go into ICU with Omicron, and you are less likely to lose your life with Omicron.
Opening up meant accepting COVID case numbers would rise, and while the Prime Minister wants Australians to live with the virus, how that happens remains the biggest challenge for Australia's leaders.
We've got to let Australians make their own choices about their own health and their own lives.
Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Rafael Nadal is in serious doubt for next month's Australian Open after testing positive to COVID. The 38-year-old revealed his positive status on social media, declaring, "I'm having some unpleasant moments, but I hope that I will improve little by little." With most players and their entourages due to arrive next week, time is against the 2009 champion. Serena Williams is already out of the Open and a cloud still hangs over Novak Djokovic. Christmas travellers are paying cash to get quicker COVID results as state-run clinics continue to be overrun. But with not enough staff to extend hours, the plea is to try and avoid the busier times. Adam Hegarty with the latest.
It's as extraordinary in person as it is on paper. From its tail on Lonsdale Street, a queue snakes almost 150 metres down Heffernan Lane. And that's barely halfway. It turns the block along Little Burke before the final 100 metres straight up Russell Street. A slow testing crawl, testing patients, and summed up in a sentence.
They're telling everyone to get tested, but then there's nowhere to get tested, so.
Gridlock at the Albert Park site, a 3.5-hour wait before testing even began at 7 a.m.
Don't really have a choice, have to wait.
Police called in to turn cars away as the alternative vanishes from shelves. Rapid antigen test wholesalers running low on stock as demand at pharmacies surges.
Christmas parties or wanting to protect their families for Christmas. They come, they go, they take all our stock off the shelf in one go.
But that's not an option for Christmas travellers. Their ticket to Queensland, South Australia and Tasmania is a negative PCR test from a regular clinic. And with not enough staff to stretch hours further, the best leaders can do is extend a message. Plan better, avoid the morning rush and find smaller queues.
For the most part, across all of our 260 sites, we're getting through, 40 minutes on average.
Though it's easier said than done.
I tried St Vincent's, but there's an even bigger queue there.
By 10 a.m. at the brand new Town Hall site, a sight to behold. A line long enough to turn people off at first glance.
There's a private firm, I might see if I can get done there quickly.
That's what it's come to. A line too at Melbourne Airport, where a test result in no more than an hour and a half sets you back $80. The price travellers are willing to pay as they run out of time.
Extremely nervous. If I don't receive it, I can't really jump on a plane, can I?
And Adam Hegarty is at Melbourne Airport. Adam, some changes for Victorians heading into state.
There are, Alicia, a slight reprieve for anyone headed to South Australia this Christmas. You'll still need to get the negative results 72 hours prior to leaving, but they've just made a change this afternoon. Once you get there, the day 1 and day 6 test requirement, they've gotten rid of that largely because their wait times at testing queues are astronomical compared to ours, 9 hours in some instances, particularly at their 24/7 site. But Alicia, I'm afraid that is where the leniency ends. Up in Queensland, for instance, they're already turning around travellers who have arrived without a negative test result.
All right, Adam Hegarty there, thank you. Well, those hoping to travel to New Zealand next month have had their plans delayed. The nation's planned border easing has now been pushed back to February, the change blamed on Omicron. The move is designed to give the nation more time to fast-track boosters. Less than a month after Omicron was detected in the United States, it's become that nation's dominant COVID strain. It now represents around 73% of new cases. That's according to the Centres for Disease Control and Prevention. 5 people, including 3 children, have been rescued by Victoria Police's Air Wing in 2 separate incidents overnight. As Mimi Becker reports, police say it's a reminder to be safe in the great outdoors this summer.
In the middle of the night, 2 bushwalkers winched to safety into the arms of the police air wing, a 36-year-old Doncaster woman and a 25-year-old Mill Park man rescued from the Werribee Gorge State Park. The hikers had set out around 8 last night before wandering off the track and getting stuck on a 150-metre high ledge in the dark.
Local police were on scene and they were unable to get to the couple or the 2 people either from above or below, and made the decision that a rescue winch would be required.
As the helicopter hovered above, the pair could be seen struggling on the rocks. In daylight, the sheer drop and danger was revealed. Later in the night, in the state's southeast, a second rescue, the police helicopter flying to the Lake Glenmaggie area near Sale.
We discovered that 3 young children aged between 10 and 15 had been on a inflatable raft type thing that had deflated.
The trio huddled on the riverbank, their stressed relatives at the campsite opposite, metres away but unable to reach them.
Given this holiday period, when you're out on the water or in the water or you're out hiking, to make sure you've got the correct equipment with you and you don't exceed your own abilities.
This time, thankfully, no one was injured. Mimi Becker, 9 News.
The family of a father gunned down over stolen DJ equipment has confronted his killer for the first time. Tony Panayotu stormed a stranger's home with a loaded gun, but argues shooting him in the head was an accident. Crime reporter Lana Murphy.
Dwan Hutchings' family waited almost 3 years to ask Tony Panayotu what kind of person has a sawn-off shotgun at the ready to take things into their own hands if the law doesn't go their way. Today, his answer was a flood of tears. Video of the killer's police interview was played in court, showing the moment he cracked. The father of 4 sobbing after learning the stranger he killed had 6 children. I've watched helplessly as the innocence of childhood has been snatched away from them and shattered, their mother said. This is where the 46-year-old was killed hours after his grandfather's funeral on February 9, 2019. He was belted with batons, then shot in the head inside a friend's Oakley East lounge room. 6 men, including Panayotu and his 2 sons, stormed the property after tracking down their stolen DJ equipment for sale on Gumtree. But Dwan Hutchings had nothing to do with it. The court heard Panayotu told his sons the plan to retrieve their belongings wasn't safe, but he went to protect them. He loaded and cocked a sawn-off shotgun and hid it under his shirt. Then, in the midst of the lounge room bashing, he fired it from 20 centimetres away.
The court heard the Panayotu family had reported the theft to police and provided officers with the Oakley East address, but they were told nothing could be done because it was a civil matter. The members involved have since been disciplined, and Justice Lex Lasry was scathing.
If police said they would go around, none of this would have happened. The 56-year-old will be sentenced for manslaughter in January. Lana Murphy, 9 News.
A New York jury has retired to determine the fate of disgraced British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell. Prosecutors have accused her of being a sophisticated predator who repeatedly recruited and groomed young girls for Jeffrey Epstein. Alison Petrowski has more.
Hanging on the wall of Jeffrey Epstein's marble-lined massage room, a black and white portrait of Ghislaine Maxwell cuddling a dog. Another framed photo showing the accused sex trafficker lounging topless on a beach. New exhibits submitted as evidence by federal prosecutors, including graphic artwork, several photos of one of Maxwell's accusers, Annie Farmer, as well as sex toys discovered on Epstein's property, all taken from video of a 2005 raid on his Palm Beach mansion. Maxwell's 4 siblings linking arms as they arrived at court to hear closing arguments.
Back it up.
The prosecution telling the jury she was a sophisticated predator who knew exactly what she was doing. She ran the same playbook again and again and again. Ghislaine Maxwell is not Jeffrey Epstein, argued the defence. Maxwell is an innocent woman wrongfully accused of crimes she did not commit.
Legal experts expect the jurors to reach a verdict by the end of this week, not wanting the case hanging over their holidays, which means Ghislaine Maxwell could know her fate by her 60th birthday on Christmas Day.
She faces 6 counts of federal charges, including sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy. If found guilty, she could face up to 70 years behind bars. In the United States, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Santa has swapped the sleigh for a fire truck joined by crews to hand out presents in Braybrook. The Les Twentyman Foundation's annual tradition sees hundreds of presents gifted to kids in need right across the city.
Having these sort of events puts joy into their lives, and these kids have been coming in some cases for 3 generations.
Beautiful to see, isn't it? This is the 39th year the drive has been running. All right, now looking ahead to tonight's sport for you, here is Tony Jones.
He does a great job, Les, doesn't he? Thanks, Alicia. Among our stories tonight, a Victorian gets the call up for a possible test debut. We'll assess his chances. And the Aussies will go into that test in a menacing and unforgiving mood.
That's how we want to keep it. We want to, keep driving forward and not let England take back any momentum at all.
Also tonight, ripped and ready. Harry is all set for his first professional fight. A Boxing Day appointment of their own, but Victory was in a festive mood today. Josh continues to win new fans in the NBA, and why the NHL has been put on ice. See what I did there?
I think so.
That's all coming up later.
One of your best. All right, Tony, we'll see you soon. Still to come in Melbourne's 9 News, the mother of 2 children killed in a light plane crash tells how she learned their fate while wrapping Christmas presents. Why the price of building a home is skyrocketing in Melbourne. And the Queen cancels her Christmas tradition for the 2nd year in a row. An elderly couple has narrowly avoided serious injury after crashing their car into the front yard of a northern suburbs home last night. Police believe the driver was rear-ended by a ute before he lost control and veered into a brick fence in Fawkner. His female passenger was taken to hospital with minor injuries. A distraught mum whose children died in a plane crash was wrapping their Christmas presents when police knocked on the door. The siblings were killed alongside their dad and the pilot when a joy flight, a gift for the little boy's birthday, took a tragic turn. Natasha Kramer has the story.
The precious faces of 2 young lives never coming home.
When you say bye to them, that morning, gave them a kiss, I said, have a lovely day, love you. You never think that that will be the last time you see them.
Lucas McCarnu and his 10-year-old sister Lavinia killed while on a Sunday joy flight with their dad Chris, a surprise for Lucas's 9th birthday.
They were really excited. They didn't know where they were going.
But the unforgettable experience now forever a nightmare. Just minutes into the flight, suspected engine failure. 4 lives taken in an instant. Catherine, unaware of what was unfolding, home wrapping Christmas presents when she received a knock at the door from police.
And he then paused and he proceeded to say they didn't make it. And for about 15 minutes, I had no reaction.
Lucas and Lavinia attended school here. Today, tributes at the front gate, 2 candles burning brightly and a soccer ball for Lucas with a heartwarming message to keep kicking goals.
He loved playing soccer. He just had this special soul inside of him, and he was just so caring and loving to everyone.
And a beautiful little girl who loved making others laugh.
She was very protective of her brother. She was very caring.
Gifts to be opened on Christmas morning, now wrapped reminders under the family tree.
It was their favourite holiday of the year.
Natasha Kramer, 9 News.
More than $100 million will be spent setting up a specialised women's mental health service, fulfilling a recommendation made by the Royal Commission. The 35-bed service will focus on victims of trauma and sexual abuse and women with eating disorders and perinatal health concerns.
Too many years we've been lobbed in with the males, no offence to males, but
everything is designed around males first, and for many years we've lacked the female-specific focus.
The state government is partnering with private providers to deliver the program. Patients at the Monash Children's Hospital unable to return home this Christmas have received a festive surprise. Hardworking doctors and nurses gave the children's ward a makeover to brighten up patients' spirits. We will take a look inside coming up a little later in 9 News. Queen Elizabeth is breaking with Christmas tradition to limit potential exposure to COVID, deciding to celebrate at Windsor Castle instead of at Sandringham. It comes as Boris Johnson holds firm against a fresh wave of Omicron infections. His government hasn't announced any new restrictions, but warned the situation is changing by the hour and measures could be reintroduced at any time. At least 375 people were killed when Super Typhoon Rai ripped through the Philippines. The death toll has doubled in the past 24 hours, making it one of the deadliest storms to hit the country. Military personnel are now assisting in the recovery effort. Truckies are refusing to enter the US state of Colorado after a driver was sentenced to 110 years in jail for causing a crash that killed 4 people and injured several others. Rogel Medeiros was speeding when he lost control of his semi and ploughed into stationary traffic, the impact causing a deadly fireball. Santa has taken the plunge in Brazil, donning the big red suit to go diving at a Rio de Janeiro aquarium. Hopping in for feeding time, Santa and Mrs. Claus swam with sharks and thousands of species of fish, spreading plenty of Christmas cheer. Australia's building supply crisis is worsening, causing big bills and long waits. And as Chris Kohler tells us, the cost of constructing a home in Melbourne is rising faster than anywhere else in the country.
Behind schedule and blowing out on budget, Melbourne builders simply can't get the materials they need to do their job.
Across the board. There's nothing we haven't been affected by.
Industry veterans like Dean Adams are having to pass on the bad news to homeowners, explaining they're being caught in the deepest building supply crisis in decades. And it's hitting Melbourne harder than almost anywhere else.
Really awkward. It's a major investment. And most of my clients have young children.
The issue has got worse, and we are very concerned going into 2022.
New figures from master builders show the problem. The cost of supplies for Melbourne builders has risen more than 10% in the year to September, the highest in the country. Critical shortages of timber, steel and bricks are blowing out building times and costs across the board.
That really is very problematic because those particular materials really are the foundations of building and construction as we know it.
For months, it's been hoped global disruptions in production and shipping would ease, but there's no end in sight. The supply crisis is becoming a time crisis, with sites like this all over the state taking as much as 30% longer to complete than expected, leaving homeowners constantly disappointed.
It's not easy. And being the face, I've got no one to hide behind to pass on that bad news. Who knows when it's going to end?
Chris Kohler, 9 News.
Nearly a tonne of silver bullion bars have been stolen in a Hollywood-style heist. The precious metal was taken off the back of a truck last month, but police have no suspects.
Certainly a line of inquiry that we're looking at is people have inside knowledge as to this consignment of silver and it being transported between Sydney and Melbourne.
The 192 bars of silver are valued at more than $1 million. Right, Maddie is here now with a check of the weather for us, and it was another cracking day today, Maddie.
It absolutely was, Alicia. Melbourne's weather continued on its merry way. Once again, we enjoyed blue skies, but it wasn't quite as warm as yesterday. From a low of 15, the city peaked at 24.9. Now, a high-pressure system over the Bight is extending a ridge over Victoria, and that's delivering these lovely settled conditions. A cold front is set to cross Bass Strait tomorrow morning. It is a weak system, and it will stay well south of us, so it will put a lid on maximums for southern Victoria. And Alicia, I'll be back in around half an hour to unwrap the latest forecast for Christmas Day.
We look forward to that, Maddie. We'll see you very soon. Up next in 9 News, the rise in passenger slips and trips on Melbourne's rail network, Metro's urgent safety message. A blood donor shortage prompts an urgent plea for a life-saving Christmas gift. And Tail to the Chief, meet the White House's newest resident. Metro Trains is asking commuters to take extra care to avoid injuring themselves. Escalator trips and falls at stations across Melbourne are on the rise, along with slips on wet platforms. With an average of 30 incidents per month, Metro is asking commuters to use their safety gears when visiting the station. There's an urgent call for Victorians to roll up their sleeves to donate blood and give the gift of life this Christmas. As Mimi Becker reports, an extra 2,000 donors are needed in the next fortnight.
63-year-old Daryl Della says he has Red Cross lifeblood nurses Christine and Rachel to thank for his life.
Both lifesavers, incredible.
At his 75th donation, the nurses picked up an irregular heartbeat that ultimately led to Daryl having a quadruple bypass and open heart surgery 10 weeks ago.
It's just great to know you can save lives, but I never for a minute thought I'd be saving my own life, which is the way it turned out.
Our donors know that they're in good hands, and we come to work every day to try and help and do some good in the world.
Now it's your turn. Lifeblood desperately calling for 2,000 donations across the festive season.
It is a bag of life that will go to a patient that you will never know or meet, but it means that that patient may get a chance at survival. They may get to spend Christmas or New Year's with their loved ones.
And after the year that's been, there are fears holidaymakers will forget to donate, leaving the life-saving supply to run dry.
A donation is needed every 18 seconds, so we really need people to be continuously coming in. Maybe if you've only donated once, donating once more will make a huge difference.
The need for blood donations never goes away, and 1 in 3 Australians will rely on a blood donation in their lifetime. Daryl already counting down until he can donate again.
As soon as I can come back, I'll be straight back doing the same thing again, because it's just a great feeling to know that you're saving people's lives.
Mimi Becker, 9 News.
Donald Trump has filed a lawsuit against New York's Attorney General to try to shut down Letitia James's civil inquiry into his business's practices and bar her from participating in a criminal investigation into the Trump organisation. The former president's legal team is arguing Ms. James is biased and her involvement in both inquiries is politically motivated. There's a fresh face at the White House. Joe Biden has announced the arrival of Commander, a young German Shepherd, sharing this video to Twitter. The puppy was a gift from the US president's brother. Biden's other dog, Major, will now reside with family friends after a series of biting incidents. Well, they account for only 1% of new car sales here in Australia, but access to electric vehicles is about to become easier and cheaper. A new partnership has unlocked 270 service centres across the country to help bring down the costs for owners. Here's Ruth Wynne-Williams.
At a small service centre in Sydney's north, car buyer Charles Dalglish is about to go where just a small number of Australians have gone before.
I feel like a pioneer. It's brilliant. And of course, this is the future.
The first electric car to be picked up under a new partnership between manufacturer BYD, Australian company EV Direct and national auto service provider MyCar. The aim?
To allow EV vehicles to become mainstream in Australia. What this does, it creates the ecosystem for the EV vehicle network.
270 new EV service centres nationwide. Australia tails the world in green driving. The goal, 1.7 million electric vehicles by 2030.
The federal government says it'll spend $250 million to create a network of new charging stations nationwide. But right now it is still largely on the private sector to drive people to buy.
Electric cars are still too expensive. They don't drive as far as we need them in Australia, and they aren't as cheap to run as some people think.
The average cost of running a medium-sized vehicle in Australia, $1,175 a month, $14,100 a year. But running an electric vehicle costs slightly more, $1,200 a month or $15,100 a year.
Installing more charging stations is a step in the right direction, but what we're really waiting for is cheaper electric cars.
The race to break the price barrier set for the new year. Ruth Wynne-Williams, 9 News.
In the news ahead, crunch time for Christmas preparations. We take you inside the Pavlova production line. $1,000 a sip, the bottle of Grange smashing all records. And 12 Days of Christmas, a special visit to the Monash Children's. To finance now, and investors piled into travel stocks today after new figures showed Australians are still making holiday plans. Business reporter Chris Kohler.
It was an ugly night on Wall Street, but you wouldn't know it here. The ASX had a great day. CSL, miners and healthcare companies doing much of the heavy lifting. Flight Centre today revealed international bookings jumped 45% last week, despite the Omicron concern, and that had investors diving into those stocks today. But the real standout was meal kit delivery company Marley Spoon. It spiked 20% on news it'll buy out a competitor. And it was another disappointing day for Afterpay, hitting a 12-month low despite the Boxing Day sales coming up. About $4 billion set to be spent there, much of it using buy now, pay later. Finally, the Australian dollar was mostly stronger at 71 US cents, 63 euro cents and 53 British pence.
When it comes to Christmas feasts, many Australians order their ham, turkey and even prawns in advance. But months of preparation goes into making sure there are enough pavlovas to feed families every festive season. Here's Vicky Jardim.
A large procession of fluffy white sweeteners, hundreds of thousands of pavlovas whipped and churned out for Coles shoppers this Christmas.
Well, it takes quite a few months of planning. So really, to be honest, when we finish one Christmas, we start to plan for the next.
Woolworths is preparing to sell more than 1.75 million kilograms of half-leg ham, up 20% on last year's sales. It's a big splurge on cheese. 435,000 kilograms of brie and camembert scanning through the registers. At Coles, more than 1.5 million kilograms of half-leg hams and in excess of 4 million puddings, pavlovas and fruit mince pies.
Value is going to be important, but really the key trend is we're seeing customers really wanting to have an Aussie Christmas.
At Costco, it's full steam ahead. Cakes, seafood, cookie platters and sandwiches, hot items for Christmas parties and festivities.
The big difference this year is I think a lot of people are staying at home with COVID and the nervousness of travelling out there.
China's decision to halt imports of Western Australian rock lobsters will see you benefit this Christmas. They're selling for $22 each at the major supermarkets. La Nina has played havoc with fresh fruit and vegetables, making some produce less affordable. Beef prices are also up, but you can still get dessert relatively cheap.
Our business was started by making pavlovas and dropping them to cafes and local restaurants, and they're just, I think, a Christmas favourite for everybody.
Vicky Jardim, 9 News.
Someone has bought themselves an early Christmas present, a bottle of Penfolds Grange Hermitage 1951 Shiraz, fetching $157,624 at auction, a new record for Penfolds. That equates to a little more than $1,000 for every teaspoonful of the drop. Well, hardworking doctors and nurses are spreading some cheer to kids forced to spend their Christmas at Monash Children's Hospital. And as Justine Conway discovered, the festivities are proving to be just the right medicine.
The halls are decked and the scrubs are particularly festive.
The best part of being a children's nurse especially is you get to wear fun scrubs. So Christmas, everyone gets their Christmas scrubs out. And I try to match the theme.
Inside the Monash Children's Aviary ward, it feels and sounds a lot like Christmas.
It's like a special time of the year.
13-year-old Abel has been here since June. He spent a month in intensive care after suffering a severe bout of food poisoning.
I think I just ate something really wacky and then I just ended up getting a stomachache. And then that stomachache led to some body paralysis, I think.
After more than 5 months in hospital, he's preparing to join his family at home for Christmas.
It's important going home by Christmas because you need that specific time with your family and you don't want to be sitting in hospital.
9-year-old Violet Hicks is hoping she can go home too.
For Christmas, I'm going to dress up as a ballerina like Emma.
Her voice is still scratchy and her brain and body still recovering after she was placed on a ventilator following a severe epileptic seizure.
She's amazing all the nurses and doctors by sitting up and talking and
nearly back to her normal self.
For children like Violet, getting home for Christmas might not be possible. For them, the nurses and doctors here are determined to do everything to make the day merry and bright.
Obviously they're going through the hardest times of their life, so we just try and make a bit of sparkle by putting up decorations and even getting them to make the decorations themselves as well and putting them up on the wall.
Santa always knows where you are, so, you know, she's here, and if she's here, then Santa will be here too.
Justine Conway, 9 News.
Beautiful to see. All right, now returning with sport, here is Tony Jones.
Thanks, Alicia. Hello again. We're live with some breaking news on what appears to be a mass COVID outbreak at the Sydney Swans. That's coming up. Also tonight, as the Aussie cricketers arrive in town, they've sprung a real selection surprise. The boxing world is wild about Harry on the eve of his professional debut. And Aussie Josh steps up yet again in the NBA. To our breaking footy news first up, and the Sydney Swans are tonight trying to assess the full impact of a COVID outbreak at the club. Braden Ingram joins us live. Braden, you've been following the story. What do we know?
Well, Tony, this is no small outbreak with more than 10 players already testing positive to the virus and fears there could be more cases to come now. It was a boat cruise on Sydney Harbour that a number of players were involved in late last week following an end to their pre-Christmas training. Fortunately, all players are vaccinated and in good health, but it's likely this will impact the Swans' return to training early in the new season. It must be said that New South Wales recorded more than 3,000 cases in the past 24 hours alone, and this really is an early warning to the AFL when it comes to 2022. They certainly had said they were looking to push on in season, but that may not be the case if such an outbreak were to occur in the 2020 season. So, Tony, 10 cases at least at the Sydney Swans, certainly not a good start heading into 2022.
Oh, indeed, Braden Ingram with that breaking news. Cricket, and in a potential dream test debut, Victorian Scott Boland has been added to the Australian squad for Boxing Day. Although making it into the 11 will be tough, Boland is still given a chance to be given his baggy green at 32 years of age.
For a day at least, Australia's test stars went their separate ways. While a lucky few jetted home to Sydney, the remainder arrived in Melbourne after a job well done.
We've been in front in both games and not allowed them back into the contest. And from our point of view, that's how we want to keep it. We want to, keep driving forward.
Plans of an early Day 5 finish were scuttled as Joss Buttler dug in until the final session before England again shot themselves in the foot.
You can't believe it. Buttler, after 206 balls of resistance, has taken off and trodden on his stump.
Boasting a 2-0 series lead after their 275-run win, the Aussies are poised to wipe away the tourists come Boxing Day.
We'd love to wrap it up in Melbourne, but like I said, we're going to have to play really good cricket to do so.
Just which bowlers they'll field is unclear, with News medical staff will assess the entire bowling attack. Mitch Starc battled soreness and Josh Hazlewood remains in doubt to return from a side strain. It's forced selectors to call Victorian quick Scott Boland into the squad as cover. Jai Richardson hopeful of retaining his spot after a 5-wicket haul.
More of a relief than anything. Especially after the first innings, having a bit of a tough time of it.
Staring down the barrel of another embarrassing series defeat on Australian soil, the fallout back home has already been fierce for England after skipper Joe Root conceded they haven't learned any lessons when they were thrashed here 4 years ago.
First of all, we need to learn, and we need to learn fast. We can't make the same mistakes that we have done so far. But we have to absolutely believe it.
The Aussies will hold their first MCG training session on Thursday. Braden Ingram, 9 News.
The wait is finally over for Melbourne boxer Harry Garside. The 24-year-old will make his professional debut tomorrow night, and it's not just Harry who'll be celebrating if he scores a knockout against his opponent. While the main event on tomorrow night's card will be former rugby league star Paul Gallen and his showdown with Darcy Lusick, the pair might just be upstaged. Enter this man. Harry Garside weighed in today with a brief reminder of his Olympic success this year, his bronze medal and his Olympian status acting as something of a motivation.
I failed 5 times to make the Olympics, but I kept going because I wanted to do it, just like all the famous fighters, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roy Jones Jr., Floyd Mayweather, the list goes on. They all did the Olympics, then they turned professional. In his first professional fight, Harry will meet Fijian Sachin Mualia. He's far more experienced than the Aussie, but whatever experience Garside lacks in the ring,
he makes up for with an endearing confidence.
Mate, wait well. I'm feeling good mentally, physically, emotionally. It's go time now. Tomorrow night, one more sleep.
And the aim tomorrow night is a knockout. The best KO of the evening pockets a bonus $20,000. But that kitty won't even make it into Harry's pocket.
Every cent is going to be going to people who need it most during this time. It's going to be going to homeless people, single parents, and people like that, people who really need it during the Christmas season. It's a tough time for people, and I really want to give that money. I really want to get that knockout to give that money to people who need it most. Harry
Garside weighed in at 60.72 kilograms, but given the image he's bringing to boxing, he's worth his weight in gold. Melbourne Victory was in a bit of a festive mood this afternoon, preparing to gift supporters and themselves a win over Western United on Sunday night. Last weekend's thrilling derby draw against Melbourne City has given Victory plenty of confidence.
We're full of confidence at the moment, and the Boxing Day game, which is the next up, is another big one and an exciting one.
And with both sides in the top four, it is expected to be a fiery old affair, perhaps appropriate. It's on Boxing Day. And sweet revenge for Aussie sensation Josh Giddey and his Oklahoma City following an upset win over the Grizzlies in the NBA today. Having suffered a 73-point mauling from Memphis earlier this month, the Thunder struck back thanks to 19 points and 11 assists from Giddey.
Backdoor cut, everybody fell asleep, and Giddey with the dime.
And as COVID wreaks havoc across the major American leagues, the NHL has locked down its season for 4 days in an effort to curb the spread among its players. And that's sport for tonight, Alicia.
Great stuff, Tony. Thanks so much for that. Maddie is back at this now, and how's tomorrow looking for us, Maddie?
Alicia, tomorrow's actually going to be one of the coolest days in the outlook. The sunshine's taking a pre-Christmas break, so if you do have to head to the shops for some last-minute presents, tomorrow is probably the day to do it. I'll have the full forecast next. Hello again. If the festive season isn't enough to put you in a good mood, today's weather should have helped. The city put on a show for these zipliners here. It was warm and sunny, reaching 25 degrees. There was plenty of sunshine around the suburbs too. Epping and Yarra Glen both warmed up to 28, but afternoon sea breezes kept it a little cooler along the Mornington Peninsula, 23 degrees at Rosebud. Maximums were within a degree or two of the December average right across the state, up to 34 degrees in the Mallee, cooler in the south, 19 at Portland and 18 at Wilson's Prom. And it has been dry, apart from a few drizzly showers in the Wimmera, as well as a sprinkle along the Otways coast. A high over the Bight is keeping the bulk of the country dry and settled. However, thunderstorms have been sparking up through parts of northern Victoria and New South Wales. For us, we're in for a tale of two halves in Victoria tomorrow. A cold front is set to cross Bass Strait in the morning, so it will cool things down a bit in the south with extra cloud and possible showers. But it will be another warm, dry and sunny day through the north. And by Thursday afternoon, we'll be back under mostly sunny skies throughout, with only the chance of isolated showers creeping over the border into East Gippsland. And we'll be getting an early Christmas present on Friday. Christmas Eve will be warm and mostly sunny with light winds and afternoon sea breezes. Perfect weather for merrymaking. Taking a quick look at our capitals for tomorrow, Brisbane is heading for a sunny top of 32, 27 degrees in Sydney. Canberra should reach 30 under mostly blue skies. Cooler in Hobart, 18, and Adelaide is heading for a partly cloudy top of 27 degrees. Back home, most places will dip to the low to mid-teens overnight. Then areas north of the ranges can expect a similar day to today, with maximums in the high 20s and low 30s. Mildura and Swan Hill are both heading for 33 degrees. Partly cloudy in the south, and temperatures will take a bit of a hit, mostly peaking between 18 and 21 degrees. And there could be some isolated sprinkles about in the morning, but nothing more than a millimetre. Around Melbourne, those drizzly showers will most likely be in the outer east, otherwise a mostly cloudy day, and minimums will range from 12 to 15 degrees before most spots climb to 19, 20 or 21. Yarra Glen will peak above the rest. It's heading for 22. The city should reach a cloudy top of 20 from a mild low of 15. 21 degrees on Thursday with sunny breaks in the afternoon. There'll be nothing but blue skies on Friday and a top of 25 for Christmas Eve. Dancing Santa is happy that it won't be too hot for the big day, dropping down to 21. 20 degrees on Sunday. It'll be dry and partly cloudy for the first day of the cricket, then jumping back up into the mid-20s, 25 on Monday and 26 degrees next Tuesday. It'll be cooler than that tomorrow though. though, the city should reach 20 degrees. The chance of a light shower about in the outer suburbs in the morning, but the afternoon isn't looking too bad, Alicia.
Yeah, it looks good. All right, Maddie, thank you for that. And that is 9 News this Tuesday. Layla is up next with a current affair. I hope you have a great evening. For now, good night.
Yeah.